Alrighty, tonight I'm going to start a little mini-series on pride or the dangers of pride. How many of you have ever had a little bit of a bout with pride? I think if we were honest, we'd realize that pride has taken all of us out a few times, hasn't it? Anyway, I want to talk about this for a few weeks. It's not going to be a long series, and I believe it's a concern that God's been putting on my heart. I've been really praying and looking and observing, and God has been doing a lot of things in my life, and letting me see a lot of things, and developing me and teaching me. And one of the things I'm seeing is I'm seeing a lot of spiritual pride on Christians, leaders, and pastors even. I'm not one to sit here and judge, so I'm going to preach about it and teach about it in a proactive way. I'd rather be proactive than reactive. How many know the difference between being proactive and reactive? Proactive is you see a problem in your life or something you need to deal with, and you don't wait till you have a relapse or crisis. You're proactive. And reactive means you just wait and all of a sudden things blow up, and now you're in reaction, and now you've said things or made mistakes and too much to take back, and next thing you know you had a huge relapse. How about you? But I live my life in reaction, being reactive and never being proactive, never really taking responsibility for my issues. I've talked about hurricane season comes up, and they go into hurricane preparedness, which is really about being proactive. It's about not waiting till a storm happens, and at the last minute you have no water, you have no batteries, you have no way to get out of town, and next thing you know you're in the middle of a disaster. So we go into hurricanes, hopefully proactively prepared, so that when it happens, we're ready to deal with it. Matthew 7, amen, Lord. Must be on target tonight, huh? All right, easy. Anyway, Jesus is talking about proactive recovery in Matthew 7. I won't read the whole thing, but he talks about two men who built two types of foundations. One was a wise man, and he built his house on the rock, and who was a man that was able to receive correction and take orders and was a doer of the word. God was speaking to him, and hey, you need to tighten up, you need to button up a few things, you need to be proactive, you need to take a look at your pride, you need to take a look at some things in your life. And it says when the Lord, when he spoke to him, he acted upon those words. That means he took ownership of those words. He was proactive, and he took ownership of them and began to take care of those problems. And his house was compared to one who built his house on the rock. And when the storms came and the rains fell and the floods came, it says that his house was still standing. Then there was a foolish man who God had been speaking to him over and over and over again, and didn't care about being proactive. He didn't want to take ownership. He disregarded what was being said to him. He became a forgetful hearer and not an effectual doer. Have you ever been there before? Just disregard what God's trying to tell us. We disregard what our friends are trying to tell us. And that's called a fool. A fool is a man who fails to pay attention to what's going around them. Verse 26 says, everyone who hears these words of mine and does not act on them will be like a foolish man who built his house on sand. When the rain fell, the floods came, and the winds blew and slammed against that house. It fell, and it says, and great was its fall. Not just a little slip. We're talking about a massive meltdown, a relapse, a total devastation. We're not talking about a hurricane blowing through and you lose a few shingles. We're talking about a hurricane of a category 5 that just annihilates and lays everything out. And it's just mass devastation. Well, the rain, the floods, And the winds are trials and tests and things that we go through in life that not if they come, but when they come, we have a responsibility to how we're going to deal with them. We can deal with them like a wise man, or we can be a foolish man. But a wise man is proactive. He pays attention. And one of the areas that I'm seeing, a lot of is that there's a lot of Christians and spiritual leaders and pastors that aren't paying attention to their pride, and if they don't take it seriously, God's not okay with that. And it's going to cause them to fall. And I don't know about you, but I've been a fool all my life. Hard-headed, insubordinate, unteachable. Didn't want to be accountable, didn't be told what to do. I always had to be right. I'm still working on all those things, so I haven't arrived. Lofty, arrogant, thinking you got it all figured out, but that's called a fool. And those kinds of things, when trials and tests come in our life, if we got pride in our life, it's going to show up and it's going to take us out. So I don't know about you, but I'd rather be proactive than reactive. And God has been speaking to me about pride and watching it. I'm watching pastors and people go down right all around me. And it's really all, if you ask me, the root of all that really is about pride. They're not accountable. They don't want to listen to nobody. They don't want to be teachers. They're not even really listening to the Lord. And they've elevated themselves to this position in this place where they don't feel like they need to be accountable. And that's a bad place to be. 1 Peter 5:8 says to be sober, to be of sober spirit, be serious, be on the alert. Your adversary, the devil, prowls about like a roaring lion seeking someone to devour. You know what a praying lion looks like? It's not a lion that goes around, my Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. It's not a lion that's praying for his victim. He's praying on his victims. If you ever watch the Nature Channel, it's amazing to watch lions. They'll sit there for hours. Every hour or so, they'll inch a little bit closer. They'll stay there it's just amazing. They'll inch a little closer. And they'll wait till their prey is not paying attention to what's going on around them. Especially one that gets isolated and is not being held accountable and is not with the rest of everybody and is off on his own little thing. Isn't that what happens when we get pride? We get lofty, arrogant, we get off to this place of being on the high horse. Well, it says right here that it tells us we need to be sober, we need to pay attention because the devil preys on us and he looks to, the word is to devour us. The word devour actually means to swallow in one big gulp. That means the devil doesn't just, paw at you and hit you here and then come back 10 minutes later. No, he waits until you're not paying attention to the exact moment, and when he jumps on you and he goes for the jugular, he takes you out with one big gulp and it's all over with. It's amazing to watch him. Once those jaws are on their victim, it's over with. And that's what the devil wants to do. He wants to take us out. Now the two big giants, how many of you have heard of some teachings out there on the 7 giants? Well, the two of the big giants are, I would say, are fear and pride. Fear is kind of a low opinion of ourselves. I'm a nobody. I'm self-pity. I'll never amount to anything. And you get ate up with fear. You cower down. You run away. And that's just another form of pride because that's not who God made you. God made you to be God called you to be God's not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but a power, love, and a sound mind. Okay? He didn't call us to be cowards and be intimidated. So he loves to go after fear. If he can't do that, then he loves to go after the pride. So we have all these different character defects. Fear being a big one, and pride being a big one. Control's a big one, and resentments and anger, and there's just all kinds of different things. And Here the devil, he sits out there luring lion. He watches us and he looks at all these different things, taking away, take us out. And one of the big ones that he goes after is pride. He waits till you get this elevated opinion of yourself where you think you've arrived, you don't need nobody, and then at the last minute, when you think you're okay, he pounces on you. So he goes after access, doorways, legal access, entry points to cause us to relapse. Now Proverbs 16:18, Solomon was a very, very wise man, and how many know wisdom is a collection of experiences? Okay? You become smart by birth, by genetics, but you become wise as a matter of character. It's by taking your experiences and losing a few battles and winning a few battles, losing a few wars, and it's a collection of data where after a while you've become pretty wise about the things of the world. And so, pride comes before destruction. So Solomon is the wisest man in the world. He's learned a few things the hard way. Are you with me? And so he's writing this book to give you all his years and years and years. He talks about so many things, about vanities and vanities. And one of the things he talks about over and over again is pride. He says, you better watch out for that pride. Pride comes before the lightning bolt. I think he's trying to get somebody's attention here tonight, amen? Anyway, everybody go like this. Anyway, he said pride goes before destruction, or pride precedes a relapse. How many want to have to go around the mountain again and take I don't know if I can go through another one. Trust me, I've never been around the mountain too many times. I may have another drunk, but I don't have another relapse. So pride goes before destruction, devastation, and a haughty spirit before stumbling. A haughty spirit is a spirit that is arrogant, self-righteous, puffed up, high-minded, out of touch with reality. A person that's haughty and has a self-righteous spirit sees himself at this elevated place on a high horse. And he looks at others with contempt. We'll talk about that later, about the publican and the Pharisee. He looked at others with contempt. He says, I fast, I pray, I do this, and he looked down on other people. I mean, God hates pride. God hates an arrogant, lofty. What do we have to be proud about? What do we have to be proud about? Except for the grace of God, there go every one of us. I have nothing to be proud about. Pride, when we're prideful, it's a direct insult to God. 1 Corinthians 10:12 says, therefore let him, or that person or individual who thinks he stands or thinks he's arrived, take heed that he does not fall. Let him who thinks he's arrived, that he's all that, in the bag of chips we used to say, that person that thinks he doesn't have anything to learn, that he's better than everybody else, he's not teachable, he's not accountable, has a right to be right, and can't tell him anything. That type of individual, better be careful. You're on the verge of a fall, a great fall. How many in here have arrived? I don't think any of us have we? No. We all got a little something to learn, don't we? Okay? We all got some areas in our life that need to be corrected. We all need to change. You know? We all need some humility. What is that thing? Let me ask you, what is that thing in all of us that just can't handle being corrected? Sometimes we go and we try to correct somebody, and it's like before they're even listening to a single word we're saying, they're already building up a defense. Already trying to think of a way to win this argument. They're not even thinking about what the person's saying. They're not even listening. There's this wall that goes up. It's called a defense mechanism, where automatically they're putting on this thing where they just feel like that they can't be wrong. They've got to look good at all costs, and what is that thing? We all got it. Let's just be honest. I mean, I don't like being told what to do. What is that thing that just can't sit back and listen and say, okay, thank you, I appreciate you telling me. I'll take a good look at that. I know you love me and care about you, and why do we have to go through this big old dog and pony show about putting up these walls and defending ourselves? Why is it that we're so easily offended? How can we so easily forget where we come from? I want to introduce you to a little friend of mine. Can't see him because he lives right here in me. My name is Pride. I am a cheater. I cheat you of your God-given destiny because you demand your own way. I cheat you of your contentment because you deserve better than this. I cheat you of knowledge because you already know everything. I cheat you of your healing because you're too full of me to forgive. Too full of yourself to ask for healing. That was Naaman. You remember him? Might talk about that guy later. Naaman was a guy that was a leper. He wanted to get healing, but he wanted it his way, didn't he? Elijah said, "We'll go down to the Jordan wash," and Elijah didn't even go out of the house. He just sent word and told him. He says, "Man," I'm not going out of that nasty water. Isn't there other better places?" And finally, healing's better anywhere, isn't it? So he finally humbled himself and he got his healing. But that's the kind of thing pride does. It robs us. I cheat you of holiness because you refuse to admit when you're wrong. I cheat you of vision because you would rather look into the mirror than out the window. I cheat you of genuine friendship because nobody's going to know the real you. I cheat you of love because real romance demands sacrifice. I cheat you of greatness in heaven because you refuse to wash another's feet here on earth. I cheat you of God's glory because I convince you to seek your own. My name is Pride. I am a cheater. You like me because you think I'm always looking out for you, but that's untrue. I'm looking to make a fool out of you. God has so much for you, I admit, but don't worry. If you stick with me, you'll never know. You'll never find it. I think we can all say that all hits home with all of us, doesn't it? So pride is a self-exalting characteristic, an elevated opinion, a self-righteous, lofty, arrogant, better than thou, high-minded opinion of ourselves. Basically, what pride is when something's going on, an unresolved issue in our life, whether it's fear, insecurities, whatever. When we feel that thing coming up in us, what's happening is something inside you is being triggered. And pride is really nothing more than a defense mechanism. I used to think pride was a character defect, and I have to think a little more about it. It may be, but I know for sure pride is a defense mechanism. It keeps everybody away. So when someone's trying to correct me, I'm taking correction as rejection. They're saying something, a 10-cent steak to me, and all of a sudden they're getting a $10 reaction. Are you with me? You ever been that before? You just say a little something, and all of a sudden, whirr, and you go, "Oh, Lord have mercy." Walking on eggshell. Let's get out of that neighborhood. I've seen people like that. But you know what? I've been like that too. And it can get like that real easy when things are being triggered. And it's real easy for me to get hooked by the devil. Are you with me? Put up that wall of pride. I've sit there sometimes when you're talking to somebody or counseling or you're confronted or something, and you can see it. You just see it coming right up, and you haven't even really got there. You just see them. It's like they're putting on this bulletproof vest already, and you hadn't even got to what you're going to do yet. And it's like, what is that thing? And we all do it. What's really going on is there's unresolved issues in you, and you're trying to hide it so that no one will get close to you. You don't want people to know the real you. Boy, if they ever find out what I'm really like, so I've got to look good, I've got to be right, I've got to have the answers, I've got to be perfect, and the minute we try to confront something, boy, you know. How many of you have ever seen a sociogram before? Sociogram's probably one of the biggest tools I've ever seen that can truly change a man's life. But if a man's not ready to receive and he's not humble, man, it can turn into World War III. And I've seen it go incredibly wrong, and I've seen it go extremely well. But people just do not want to be. And you know, what is that? If a person really wants to be, if a person is really humble, if you really want to be well, if you really want to grow, if you want to be Christ-like in your life, and someone wants to tell you something, whether right or wrong, you should be, come on over here, let's have a seat. I know you love me, I know you care about me, what do you have to say? Talk to me. And take it home and journal about it, listen to it, chew the fish, spit out the bones. But what is that thing in me that we can't just listen? It could be totally off the wrong, but what is it that you can't even just listen to what somebody has to say? Am I hitting anybody tonight?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm teaching on this because this is a problem. We're going to talk about the teachable spirit here a little bit later on too. But this is a problem in our lives, and it keeps us from our healing. And the devil's ripping us off, and pride goes before destruction. Let he who stands take heed lest you fall. And if you keep carrying that attitude, you keep doing that, you're on the verge of a relapse. So pride is the root of all sin. Go to Luke 10:17 through 18. Jesus sends out the 70 disciples, and he gives them a little authority. Delegates a little authority to them, and so they take that authority, and you know, how many know we can either abuse authority or be abuse authority, or we can be good stewards of God's authority. So he sends them out and tells them, you know, go out in my name, in my authority. Speak on behalf of me. And it says, so they went out and they came running back home. 70 of them returned with joy, saying, wow, Lord, even the demons are subject to us in your name. And apparently Jesus picks up on a spirit that came back with them, okay? Here they go out, and they go out nobodies, and all of a sudden, most likely they're out there casting out demons and speaking in the name of the Lord and seeing miracles, and you know, man, they're coming back all like this, you know, all like a rooster, you know, all banded up, prideful. We don't see that, but you can read between the lines, because all of a sudden out of nowhere, listen to what Jesus says. He said to them, I was watching Satan fall from heaven like lightning. Where did that come from? He says, rejoice not that the demons are subject to you, but rejoice ultimately that your name's written in the book of life. But where does this come from? You would think that when he sent them out and they came back, he'd be saying, all right, boys, way to go. And here's your first prize, your second prize. You won the most of the Lord, and do all that, you know. But what he does, he realizes they come back with the wrong spirit. They came back all haughty and lifted up and proud. And he could have just overlooked that and let it go on. But no, he turns around and speaks right to it and says, boys, it's a great thing. I'm glad you're happy. God used you, but you better be careful. Pride comes before destruction. Let he who stands take heed lest he fall. Yeah. Matter of fact, I seen somebody just like you, and I was watching him. I was there. His name was Satan, and I watched him fall from heaven like lightning. We're going to talk about, next week, we're going to talk about Lucifer and the original sin and where it all started. Lucifer was a created angel who was like one of the top angels. Actually, Lucifer was the worship angel. He was incredibly beautiful. He was adorned with all kinds of stones, and he was given a high position in heaven, right next to the throne. Apparently, he was hanging out right at the throne, doing whatever he does, singing or leading worship. Some of you, and we're going to talk. We'll read it all next week. But somewhere in all this, Satan or Lucifer forgot where he came from, and what happened was he decided that just being an angel and being a warrior and being second or third in command wasn't good enough, so he decided he wanted to be like God. Not only did he think it in his head, but it says that he said it in his heart, that I will ascend my throne above the throne of God. Think about that. Here a created being, a servant of God, is thinking in his heart, and then he says it. How many know when you say something in your heart, it's a lot different than just thinking? I mean, I think about things, but when you say it in your heart, you just made a judgment. Okay? That's a judgment. That's a vow. That's deep. And that'll come back and bite you. So Satan probably had been thinking of a long time, we're worshiping God, we're doing all this, and we don't know how sin entered into the whole thing. Whatever, somewhere he forgot where he came from, and he wanted to be independent of God. Here he was watching God on his throne, and Lucifer was down here, and he decided not only do I want to take God off the throne, put myself on the throne, but no, that's not what he said. I want to make my throne even higher than God's throne. I mean, there's not anything higher than God. But somewhere in his mind, he thought he actually got to this elevated, lofty, arrogant fantasy world that he really thought that he could get away with trying to be God. How many know God will not share his glory with nobody? It was a spirit of, the first sin was pride, it was independence. He wanted to be his own God. And we know that didn't go over too good, because let he who stands take heed lest he fall. Next thing you know, he got fired. He got booted out of heaven, and not only him, but 1/3 of the angels. Do you know how many angels there are? I got it written down somewhere. Somebody actually came with that. Anyway, maybe I'll find it later. But anyway, there's billions or trillions of angels. Matter of fact, I think there's enough angels for every Christian to have like 3 of them at minimum or something like that. So you know how many? So pride is bad. It gets us booted out, gets us fired, but it also recruits. Rebellion recruits. Are you with me? How many know what it's like? Well, the pastor just hurt my feelings, and the house man just hurt my feelings. Lance hurt my feelings. Damien hurt my feelings, and I didn't get my way. So the next thing we know, we're going over to the room by room. We're getting on the phone, texting everybody, saying, "Oh, you wouldn't believe what Pastor Dave just did. You can't believe what they just said, and he said this, and no, really, he said that." And what we're doing is we're recruiting. We're trying to get people to join our way of thinking and to follow along with us. And Lucifer actually was so convinced in his head, he said in his heart, and he got 1/3 of them to go with him. And so all of them thought they were going above the throne of God. And in reality, they ended up going to hell. A whole bunch of them. Saul thought he would get away with disobeying the Lord. He thought it was okay to disobey the Lord. Thought it was no big deal. God said, "Oh, go utterly destroy the Amalekites, every single one of them, man, woman, child, and kill the king, don't take anything." And he decided it was okay for him to keep the best of the spoil. Then when he was confronted by sin, he says, "What have you done?" "Oh, I followed out the commands of the Lord." And he said, "Well, then what's all these cows I hear in the background? What are all these people?" He said, "Oh, well, we decided we'd keep a few of the things because the people were pressuring me." Now he's blaming on the people. Here he's the king. He's what you call rationalizing, minimizing, projecting, and blaming. Which is what we all do when we're confronted on something, doesn't it? He went through a dog and pony show and was being held, and he kept trying to wiggle off the hook, and finally, he said, "You're right. You got me. I'm busted. But will you still go with me and, in other words, you confronted me, but don't let me save my face in front of all the people. Still walk with me in the parade." And the Lord just basically fired him. You come back in 1 Samuel 15:23, he says, "For rebellion is the sin of witchcraft, of divination or witchcraft, and insubordination or stubbornness is as iniquity of idolatry." So Samuel's telling Saul that, rebellion or independence, defiance is just like witchcraft. And being stubborn and hard-headed is just like idolatry. Idolatry means, how do you know God will have no other idols before Him? So when you have pride and rebellion, you're practicing witchcraft. Are you with me?
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. You're being independent of God. You're saying, "Hey, I want to be my own God." And we all, like Lucifer, can get haughty, proud, and arrogant and lifted up. And we can get to this place where we feel like we don't need nobody, and we've arrived and we're not teachable, and we want to be our own God. Isn't that what happened out there in our addiction? We thought we'd be our own God, and how did it work out for you? Adam and Eve, he recruited and rebelled against them. Genesis 3, it says, "The serpent was more crafty than the beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said to the woman, Indeed, has God said, you shall not eat from the tree of life. The woman said to the serpent, From the trees of the garden we may eat, but from the fruit of the tree which is in the middle of the garden, God has said, You shall not eat or touch it, or you will die. And the serpent said, You'll not die, for God knows in the day you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." What he was trying to say is that, don't buy into that stuff God's telling you. You can be independent. You can be like God. You can go around God. You don't need to be told what to do. And he appealed to their selfish, self-centered, all about me attitude, and they rebelled against God, and they sinned, and they were kicked out of the garden. All because of pride. Just think if they would have turned right around and spoke to them and said, "No, God is God, and we're not going to put our throne there, and He's told us this, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to humble up. We're going to submit to what He said." And you know what? They could have still been in paradise, maybe. Who knows? All of us like sheep have gone astray. All of us like sheep have gone. Every one of us. When Adam and Eve jumped the fence, we all jumped the fence, and we've been running in rebellion and independence ever since then. Missing out on our divine destiny, all because of pride. The disciples, Jesus is getting ready to go to the cross. He's serving them communion. He wants to spend his last night in a real nice little thing with his boys, and then with 3 years. And then he, after communion, he starts washing their feet and humbles himself to the lowest form of servant and washes feet. And then he starts talking about how one of them's going to betray him, and next thing you know, a heated verse 24 says, "And there arose a dispute among them as to which one of them was regarded to be the greatest." Can you imagine this? Jesus is going to the cross. He's getting ready to die. He needs his friends. He needs his companions, and he's grieved about one of them that's going to betray him, and he's trying to confront this situation and give this person a chance to repent even. Telling him, he's right here with us. So next thing I know, what are they doing? It's like when the shuttle blew up, everybody's blaming Lockheed or, Martin Marietta or Boeing, and it's everybody's blaming everybody. And next thing you know, what we've got is it was a dispute. It was a heated argument. The gloves were coming off, and they were fighting. There was a rooster crowing contest. Can you imagine Jesus? Been with you 3 years, and I just set the greatest example of humility that one could ever set, and you guys are arguing about which one of you is going to be the greatest. How do you know it's not all about us? It's not all about us. My right to be right causes us to be wrong, then I'm way wrong. You with me? Yeah. My right to right causes us to be not right, then my attitude or whatever, it's way wrong. Relationships more important than rules. Then he goes on down in verse 31. Simon, Simon, behold, Satan has demanded permission to sift you like wheat, but I have prayed for you, that your faith may not fail. And you, once you have turned again, strengthen your brothers. But he said to him, Lord, with you I am ready to go both to prison and to death. And he said, I say to you, Peter, the rooster will not crow until you have denied me 3 times. So Peter was part of this rooster crowing contest, probably the ringleader. So Jesus, instead of letting it all go, he picks out Peter. He says, man, you know, let me just tell you something about you. Let me tell you about you right there. You know, Satan's knocking on the door. Satan's out here praying. He's wanting to take you out. He's asked permission to sift you like wheat. I mean, no, the devil can't do anything to us without permission. But any area in our life that's unsurrendered, that's uncrucified, that is undealt with, any area that's become an idol, any area that God doesn't have access to, the devil has a legal access to these areas. He has to ask permission, and when he asks permission, the devil's watching this rooster crowing contest, and he says, there it is, whoop, there it is. So he goes to the Lord and says, there's an area of pride in Peter's life. It's bad. And so the Lord gives permission. He grants it. He said, the devil's asked permission to sift you, and he's right. You've got a bunch of pride, and it's got to go. I won't be able to use you like this. I'm getting ready to go to the cross, and here, this is where you're at. That kind of humility. I just wash feet, and here, this is where you're at. And so the Lord's talking to Peter, saying, look, the devil's going to be knocking on your door. He's coming after you. Here's a chance for you to humble up. Listen to me. You know? Peter says, oh, no, I'm ready. I've arrived. I'm not all that. Listen to what he says. Lord, I am ready to go both to prison and to death. The Lord is just shaking his head. And he said, I say to you, Peter, the rooster's not going to crow today until you have already denied me 3 times. But he's basically saying, I beg to differ, God. I beg to differ, Jesus. I mean, can you imagine this? The arrogance and the pride and the loftiness that he thought he was at this place where I'm ready, I've arrived, I'm all good, I'm bulletproof, I'm all that. And the Lord says, okay, sick him, Satan. So I'm going to pray for you, Peter. It's going to be all right. You're going to wash back up on the shore, but you're getting ready to eat crow. Pride comes before destruction. You're getting ready to fall. You're getting ready to blow it. And I'm telling you, it's going to happen tonight before the rooster crows 3 times. And Peter just, he had plenty of forewarning, didn't he? Plenty of opportunity to humble up. But no, he was all that. He wouldn't want to listen to no correction. He wasn't willing to listen to nothing. And the Lord said, it's all right, I'll be here when it's all over. You come on back home. And we know before the night over is he denies 3 times. He hears the rooster. He looks over and he sees Jesus looking at him and says, basically, I told you so. I warned you. I told you. You know? Luke 18:14 says that he who exalts himself will be humbled, but he who humbles himself will be exalted. Let me read that again. He who exalts, has an elevated opinion, arrogant, self-righteous opinion of himself, will be humbled. However, everybody who will humble themselves, bring himself low, that God will honor him and exalt him, lift him up. I've got an old saying, come easy or come hard, but you will come. God hates pride. He will not share His glory with anybody. It's nauseating. It's a direct offense. And if you have pride in your life, then the devil has legal access to go after you. And pride goes before destruction. If you got pride in your life, there's opportunity now. I always like to say either be humble or be humbled. If you want to continue to ride on your high horse and you want to maintain that, trust me, it's just a matter of time. Let he who stands take heed, because you're getting ready to get knocked off your high horse. My mom used to look at me, and I love the way she said, "Son, don't get too big for your britches. Don't get too big for your britches." Now, is that a sermon all right there in itself? You know, I still hear the Lord every now and then say, "David, don't get too big for your britches." You know, isn't that God? So we can be proactive or we can be reactive. We can be humble, deal with this, or we can stay proud and lofty, and God will knock you off your horse. Come easy or come hard, but you will come. Amen? Amen. All right, so tonight's message was dangers of pride. This never happened. Whole message, I never even got to it. So anyway, we'll pick up next week, and we'll talk about the pride of Uzziah next week. Amen? Amen.